I'm so excited because we are here talking about one of my favorite topics, which happens to be reading tutoring. So I am joined today by other reading tutors. We have a couple more people. Hopefully they'll make their way on into this side of the call over here, and they'll be able to join us as well. So we're going to be talking about today, you guys, everything about reading. So like, how do you teach reading online? What are your favorite resources and tools? How do you do this thing, right? Like, so many people like ask me that question all the time when I was first getting started. Like, how in the world do you even teach reading online? Well, we're going to demystify that for you. And then next week, I'm on break, so you're not going to have any YouTube lives from me. I know, sad. But the following week, I have a free training. It is called, that training is called How to Close the Reading Gap, a Full Year with 8 to 12 Hours of Instruction. I am going to put the link right on in, I can't put the link because I just changed it. I am going to grab that link for you guys so that you can come and join us. That one is right here. Let me grab that link for you and I will put it into the chat so that you guys have it. And you'll be able to join us for that particular training. Oh, I put become a blogger. That's the wrong one, guys. My world.
Try to do it fast.
I know. My world does not want to play nice with me today. So, Elizabeth, can you grab the link and then I will copy that and put that inside of YouTube. Grab that link and put it inside. I have it inside of the description on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to grab it from there. And then we will be able to have you guys come and join us as well for that training. So I'm so excited. I'm joined by Adele Southall, Kathy Cousino, and Lynn Wilson. This is a powerhouse, you guys. Adele just left her teaching job a couple weeks ago and is now a full-time reading tutor, and she also does stuff with Teacher Pay Teacher. Kathy Cousino, it was in her shoes about a year ago, and she has completely transitioned to online reading tutoring and is fully booked. And we've got Lynn Wilson, who is in the house, who lives in my dream state of Florida, and she's also been teaching. How long have you been teaching now reading online, Lynn?
Online, I would say just over a year.
Awesome.
If you look at teaching in general, it's a much higher number.
Oh, yeah. We all have a much higher number than that, right? Yes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she's like, wait, do I want to give that number?
Let's go 25 plus.
Here's the thing. I was talking with other people who are, they're like saying that like retired teachers are charging only $20 or $25 for their tutoring services. And I'm thinking, why in the world would somebody who has so much incredible value to offer and offer so little when they are worth so much? And with online tutoring now, people like even retired teachers can be able to find out what their true value is and their true worth is, that you are worth so much more than that. I mean, you could work with, maybe instead of working with 5 students, you only need to work with 1 student, or maybe you have 5 students and you're able to take those dream vacations you want to be able to take, or go on those cruises you want to be able to take as soon as the cruise line industry opens up again. But there's like so many things that we can all do. Like we are worth so much, and so I'm so glad that I'm joined by you guys today. Adele, tell us about your journey into teaching reading online.
Well, it started with summer school. I was an ESOL summer tutor for my school district, and I thought, okay, well, tutoring. I hadn't done tutoring at that point. I was on one of the Chinese tutoring platforms that was not working out for me. And so I thought, well, one of these kids in my group really needed some extra help. So I offered to his mom. He took me on. So that started with 1. And then a teacher in my school shared with another friend. She was tutoring the oldest student and didn't want anything to do with a first grader. And that's my joy. So she offered him to me. So that became student 2. Then I joined Jumpstart. And then after I got my confidence together, I'm up to 12 students now in 15 hours.
Yay!
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
awesome.
amazing. I never guessed that this is what I would be doing. If you asked me a year ago, I would never have said this, but here I am.
I know. Does it feel too good to be true almost?
Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of have to pinch myself when I wake up and don't have to go to a building. I just work my way to my basement and here I am.
I know it is. It's so much fun to be able to do that. I never ever tire of it, and I can't imagine that I'd be doing anything else ever. And Kathy, tell us about your journey into teaching reading.
Well, I worked in the school district for over 20 years, and then the universe knocked me on my butt and I fell at school. And then just the thought of going back to the negativity, the testing, the paperwork, I just couldn't do it. So I decided, I'm like, okay, I got to make this tutoring work. And then I'm like, okay, I know how to teach. No clue how to do it online. And then I searched on YouTube and I found Joanne.
And then you learned how to do it online. And then we showed you this is how you could do it online. And so, like, what were your thoughts? Like, because you ended up going through the reading interventionist class. What were your thoughts then after you
Multiple
did that?
times.
What were your thoughts about that as you began going through that process to learn how to do it online?
Well, that was the good thing about taking reading interventionist, because it really gave me the tools to be able to do things that I normally did anyways, but I did not know how to transfer it to online.
Mm-hmm.
So the class just really showed me how to do that. I mean, just step by step, which tools to get, which and what worked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. And now, you guys, she's one of the coaches for the Reading Interventionist program too. Woo! And we've got Lynn here. Tell us about your journey with reading, Lynn.
I've always worked with struggling students in one capacity or another, and that's where my heart is, because it's terrible for some kids to miss out on such an essential skill because they're packed in with everyone else. So my heart is there, and I had a great tutoring business in person until you change location. Being online now, because it's necessary, opens up a brand new way of looking at your teaching. And like Kathy said, I had no idea how to teach online. And then to find out there are so many wonderful programs that you can individualize for your student was really a blessing. And if we keep up with you, even the other day, you told us about Wordwall.net.
Yep. Amazing.
And our world expands.
I know, right?
It goes right to our students.
Yep. Yeah, it's so much fun. Like all the resources and tools that are just being built and released so often that it just really, really helps to be able to always just stay on top of our craft. Like it doesn't always have to look exactly the same. I mean, the elements stay the same because we know what best teaching practices are, but sometimes there's a tool that helps you do it better. And I love being able to share that. So if you guys didn't check out wordwall.net, check out that video. It is on my YouTube channel. It's going to be the very first one at the top for you to take a look at. So we're going to start off today talking about assessment. So as some of you guys may not know, like that's how we get started with working with our students, as we do an assessment to be able to figure out where our students are specifically struggling. And I started off with using the QRI because I was familiar with it, and I began teaching that process to the other tutors. Have you guys found a tool that's better than the QRI to be able to get that starting initial information that you need?
I personally like the Raz Kids benchmark passages only because it breaks down each grade level into smaller increments.
Oh, yeah. That was the part that drove me crazy, because to do each assessment like the old way, when I want to be able to get quick data like that, I use that. I just start going on in and playing with the levels. Like I get an idea, and then I play with the levels of like, okay, they're about an L. Let's see how they do there. So much easier. And then I always start like on the lower end to try to boost their confidence too, so that they're like, oh yeah, I do really but I did do that. And in the beginning, I tried using those benchmark assessments, but it would take me about 2 hours with some kids, depending on how far they were with the reading, versus having some of that quicker data. Do you have any of the kids that are reading at a little higher level that are able to get far with those, or no, not really? They're usually at the lower level.
The ones I get are usually at the lower level.
So you don't have
They'll
like tons
get
and
into
tons.
coders.
Yeah. When you get to those comprehension kids and they're like reading at the 4th, 5th grade level, that's when it really becomes a little nightmarish. But that can definitely work. Absolutely. That's one way. And there is no one way when it comes to assessment, you guys. You've got to find the tools that are going to work for you. How about you, Adele? What do you use to be able to find out what their
I
levels
use
are?
the QRI 6. I got the digital one, so I can just download it and pop it up on my screen.
Yep.
But I also dig a little deeper sometimes with Dibbles.
Okay.
That's also free online. So you can, when I have a lot of kids like Kathy that are lower reading level, really need help with the phonics piece. So the QRI gives me the reading piece, but to figure out the phonics piece, I go into Dibbles so that I can see where they are, what they're missing, and how I can help fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and there you go, because Dibbles is an assessment that a lot of teachers are already familiar with. If you're already familiar with it, it's giving you the data that you want and you need. That's what you got to do, right? Like, so first off, find out that beginning information that you guys need. How about you, Lynn?
During my training for my master's, learned to use the QRI 6.
You did?
Yes. Well, it was the 5. And I hadn't been using it, so I donated it. And I had the CD and everything. I so wished I had it back because I purchased the QRI 6. But I find it difficult to use, and the passages for the older students are long. And I have a student now in 4th grade, and because of the length of the passages, that free reading assessment is extending into other sessions. So I am really trying to compile my own assessment, and I take the best of each world. I know that's not normed the way the QRI 6 would be, but it gives me the information I know that the kids need. And even with my older kids, I do like to start at the phonological awareness level, because if they got it, they just go through it. And it does not take time. It's all oral. I'm the one marking the paper. I have them read the names of the letters, the sounds of the letters, because I don't want to miss even one sound that's continually throwing them off.
Yeah.
So you find it, you work on it, you're done with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually leaning now towards going back to, and what is the official name? Jerry John's Basic Reading Inventory.
Mm-hmm.
It's still available on Amazon. I had a CD with it, and that's no longer with the book, which is really too bad. I don't do well with CDs. Well, I can't use it anyway, actually, because, our laptops don't have that ability. But it has assessments all along the way. And when you get to the passages, it has inferential and explicit questions, so you can get that information from a much shorter passage.
Mm-hmm.
It also puts some emphasis on retells, and what a good, well, like the QRI 6 does, because that's how well a student is taking that information and can express it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't express it, then they're also going to have problems with writing, because they can't get down to the essential elements of retell and answering questions.
Yeah. And it's great to be able to get that information. That's great.
I will not end up with anything that's actually normed, but it's going to work for me.
Well, and it doesn't have to be normed, and I think that's the important thing. Unless you're using that information for the school district, it doesn't have to be normed. But I mean, you can't necessarily say without like 100%, like they're absolutely reading at this grade level if it's not normed, but you're going to have the data that you need in order to work with that child. And at the end of the day, that's the most important piece. Like, do you have information? Do you know what you're going to be able to work on? Will you be able to increase their reading level based off of the information that you have, right? And so you guys can see there are lots of different ways that you can gather that information. So there's lots of tools that are out there for you to explore and have fun with. So when it comes to phonemic awareness, how do you teach phonemic awareness? Anyone want to take this one on?
Go ahead, Lynn.
People, nothing.
I start with rhyming words and pictures and a lot of images, and without keeping the words out.
Mm-hmm.
Just giving them the picture, having them say it and listen to the parts of the word. I have a student right now who's a first grade level in school, but more of a kindergarten level in reading. And she really just needs like the very low, let's just do a lot of phonemic awareness. And then we add on some words that I know that she knows those sight words. So she can read the book that has the little bit of sight words in it to give her the confidence. But then we really just practice on the rhyming and the short vowels and like the not looking at the word, but hearing the word. That's where she is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's absolutely, that has to be in there.
Do you want us to say we teach it in the dark?
No, you definitely don't need to say no. But you know what is interesting? It's one of the only times I don't share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
So my screen is on. It's just like this, right? Like I'll look just like this, and I will say things like, "All right, at what's the word?" And I even have my little. So this is as fancy as I get with puppets. This is Ubi. That's it. That's all I got. I don't got nothing.
Doesn't he have a name?
Ubi. Yes, Ubi.
Ubi. Okay.
Yes. I don't even know where it came from. I really don't. I just know that Ubi was in existence when my kids were little, and I always had an Ubi inside of my purse. And when we would be standing in line, I would pull it out and I would say, "Can you guess my word?" And I'd be like, and they'd be like, "Can!" And they would get all excited. So it would just be something that we would do at the grocery store. And, you know, back in the day when we even had purses. I mean, people don't even have purses anymore. So I'm really aging myself. But, like, that's what I would do. And so he comes on out only when I'm working on blending sounds. So for those of you that are familiar with teaching reading, that's how I go about that for the blending sounds piece. And there's even some fun games that you can play online. You just have to be careful if the games use the letters on there or not, because sometimes they will, and you're like, wait, no, phonemic awareness is just hearing. Like, let me play with those sounds without all of that to confuse me. Add the additional. Can I just do the activity this way, auditorily? So, yeah.
I think we should call it phonemic awareness, like Adele started to say, because it can be fun.
Yep. I like that. Right? We have a new word for it. Phonemic. It's phonemic awareness.
Phonemic.
We're going to play with words and have fun,
Okay.
people. That's what it is. That's what it is. You could even have like a little bag like of stuff, right? And you reach into the bag and you're like, ooh, I feel something here. Let's see what this is. This is a koi. Can you guess it? And they'll say koi, and you can pull it out and be like, look. Yeah, you got it. You were right. That's what it was. So there's lots of fun things that you can do to make phonemic awareness fun for kids. All right. Phonics. How do you guys teach phonics online? I know Kathy has ways. That's her favorite part. I think it's your favorite part. Is it?
It is. I have like a letter deck that I go through that has keywords. I also have a deck that goes through without the keywords on it. I actually use the smart notebook, and it has the different letters. I purchased that on Teachers Pay Teachers, that you move the letters to form the words together. So, and then there's a lot of sites that I use. I mean, Wordwall is a great one. Education.com, they have a lot of the short vowel sound things. There's so many sites for phonics, and that's usually where my kids are at, that low. But I do need to tell you about a new one that I just found.
Okay, great.
So it's more to teach the letter sounds and actually the phonemic awareness too. I'm just learning about it. It's called Alpha Blocks.
Okay.
And they are so much fun. Like, I have a 4-year-old, and I mean, there's only so much you can do to like perform for this 4-year-old. But these little things, they dance around, and it's the sounds. And when they hold hands, then they sound out the word together. And oh, it's just amazing.
Oh, I can't wait. I gotta check that out. And it's at ALPHA Blocks.
Yep.
Awesome.
Is it free?
Yeah, it's all, I mean, like, I really can't find anything to purchase.
I've only seen them in YouTube videos. Is that where you find them, Kathy? Yeah, they're YouTube videos. They use them at the schools a lot too. When they have, like, when the teacher needs a down minute, they put the alpha blocks up, and they are fantastic. The kids remember them too, because they tell me about what alpha block they watched that day, if they watched it. And they even ask for it for like indoor recess.
God. Okay, so it's not like, I thought the kids got to move these blocks, but they don't move the blocks. They're videos called Alpha Blocks. Got it.
Yeah, they dance.
Cool.
On it. It really is cool. And the good thing is, the 4-year-old that I have, like, an T was up, down, and across. That was his name, according to him. Up, down, across. And I'm like, okay, nope, that's not it. And I'm like, okay, how do I get it that this picture represents this sound? And the alpha blocks were just perfect, because they just keep doing the sounds.
I love it.
Awesome.
Isn't that awesome that you can always, like, even like, you take a look at what the kid is struggling with, and then in your brain, because you know of these different resources that are out there, you're able to plug that on in to be able to help teach that. Like, there doesn't have to be like one set way to do things, as long as you find out, like, where are the gaps, what do we need to fill in for those gaps, and then you have a more complete, holistic child on your hands who has all those pieces in place and can succeed.
And that was the whole thing, because I'm Wilson trained. I mean, I had trainers coming into my room because I had a learning disabilities classroom. So it had to be done to fidelity. And now I'm able to do what exactly the kid needs.
Yeah.
Not take, I mean, I love Wilson. It takes a long time to get through, because it also brings in reading and spelling, and they have to be proficient at both before you can move them on. And I just found it took a long time. So now the exciting thing is, I can bring in whatever they need. Yep. I don't have to stay to one program. Yeah. And it's been very exciting.
That is exciting. Especially since, we've been able to discover online that, yes, in the school system, we teach the reading and the writing at the same time. But when I'm a tutor, my goal is to be able to meet the needs of that parent. And if the parent tells me that they want their child to be able to read fluently, they're going to want a result, and they want that result very quickly. And the easiest way to be able to get that is to just take a back seat on the spelling piece. Yes, they are connected, but they're also getting some of that stuff at school too. And if that is something that needs to be increased later on, that always is something that can be increased, but it does take a long time for spelling. So if you take the spelling, it actually slows down the reading. And why should the spelling slow down the reading capabilities? Because if you've got a kid who's 2 years behind and you're trying to close both of those gaps at the same exact time, the spelling will always hold the reading back, and they can learn to read a lot faster, and they could be getting a lot more success in all of their classes. And
Exactly.
overall, right? Like it's absolutely incredible. And you know, it's probably not on point with what any of the with what the research tells us, right? But this is what we have found in our industry, that wow, when I take the spelling piece out, they soar in reading super fast.
Right.
So why keep doing that, which is slowing them down? Like, take that piece out for now until the parent is like, because we have to listen to the parents and what they want too. And I think that that's one of the big things. Like in the past, as a teacher, the teachers had to listen to administration. The teachers didn't listen to the parents. But if you're a tutor and you're not listening to what the parent wants and what they're looking for, that's going to destroy your business.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
so
it's
nice too that we can just focus on what is the pinpoint.
Yep.
Versus in the classroom before, I had to, like you said, I had to do exactly what they say, but now I can know that like reading is their deficit right now. That is the high priority. Spelling is also important, but not equal right now.
Right.
So I have to go with what is the higher importance.
Right.
Which is the reading. Because I have a kid who just signed on this week, and the parents, they signed on for 2 hours because their poor kid is so embarrassed to read in the classroom that he's the one causing all the issues in the classroom. So, you know, it goes hand in hand. Like he could learn how to spell, but what he really needs right now is to learn how to read. His confidence will grow, and then the spelling, it'll come along. It'll all come together, but you have to work where the deficit is first.
Right.
And we're so lucky that we can do that.
I know, isn't it amazing?
And
We
that's
give
where
the kid
his
what they
heartache
need.
is.
Yes. Yeah, because I remember when I was struggling with reading as a kid, it was all comprehension based, and there wasn't anybody that could really help me. And then I get into, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and they tell me that I got to be in a pull out reading class, and I'm feeling dumb because I can't take a language, and you know, it does, it messes with your brain, and it messes with your self-confidence when you can't read. But your spelling is a whole other thing. Like kids aren't like, oh, I'm a terrible speller, and walk around with their head hanging down low, right? But when they're not a good reader, they do. So I think that's a really important point. All right, you guys, fluency. How do you increase? Oh, you got to go. Oh my God, it's
I
already
have to
time.
go. I'll see you later.
Thank you for
I'll miss
joining
you.
us. Thanks for joining us, Adele. All right, you guys, let's move on into fluency.
Can I add something about phonics?
Yeah.
Come on, Kathy, please. I've been using the Better Alphabet song by Katie Garner, and my little first grader, she was just coming up from kindergarten, and she didn't have all her letter sounds, but she got her letter sounds. She got short vowel and long vowel. And a sing song, go through the alphabet. Oh, I have alphabet behind me. You would go, it's like A says, I shouldn't do it exactly the way she does. She has a lot of copyrighted information. But it also says A. And I add because otherwise you do the word father and you throw them all off right away. It's free online when you go into purchasing materials and you want to get into vowel digraphs or diphthongs. Her materials are expensive, but I'm loving it. My 3-year-old grandson is picking up on it, singing the little songs, and A also says A. So my daughter-in-law goes, did you teach him A? I'll say, yeah, I did. So I do love that for phonics.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're able to bring in that kind of stuff where it is multisensory, right? It can really engage all parts of their memory in being able to hold on to and retain that information. And I think that's so important. And I know you like to add a lot of multisensory into your stuff too, Kathy. So how do you add multisensory types of activities into teaching reading online?
Well, like moving the letter tiles, that helps a lot for both reading and spelling, or even if it's just what says ah,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to say the sound and then they move the cursor to that. That's a good one. Just a lot of the games. There's a lot of the games that really help you make it multisensory because they're doing something. I do like doing the quick drill because especially when with vowel teams like E, Jeep, E, because even though like we're not like, yeah, we'll do words like using the letter tiles, but I use it like when they're in Raz Kids, they'll come up to a word. I'm like, okay, what does EE say? And they'll go EE. And then they'll be able to do it with the word because also I do the tapping to go along with the Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I do have them for sight words stand up like they're using a spray paint. I don't know.
Spray paint. Spray paint. Yes.
Thank you. I'm like, that just does not sound right. So just
What do they do?
Like if the word was the, so you hold your elbow and you pretend like you're using the can. T, H, E. So it's really using.
Mm-hmm.
You have the little graffiti artists.
Yeah,
I love it.
but usually they got a limp wrist and I got to constantly, they're like, T. I'm like, no. But it also gets them up and moving and,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like
If
that.
they're not too crazy about things, something I like to do, and it works for sight words, but it also goes back to like those vowel teams that can make them crazy. It's called 3 strikes, you win. So as you go, you would physically hold cards, or you have a list that comes up on the screen, and well, we would put an X instead of a check. But once you roll through those, and when you get 3 checks, that word goes off the list. And it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
They like doing that but I'm thinking it's not engaging them to the point where they're doing something. But if they're not too crazy, you can take that same list of words and then you pop up something. The way I did it before, it was like there'd be a pair of eyes and I would have them draw the eyes. Whenever you saw those eyes come up instead of a word, you would stand up and then sit down. And it just kept them
Moving.
ready to read. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some movement with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And there's all those things that like you guys you guys are already great teachers, right? And you can use a lot of these things that you've used in your regular teaching. You can use this right here with your tutoring and reading. Sometimes we just need permission, right? We just feel like we need somebody to tell us, yes, you can do that. I had so many people, they're like, wait, you mean I can kind of like mix some different resources and tools together to be able to teach my students? I'm like, yes, and you should. Absolutely.
That's the beauty of tutoring.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It really feels like real teaching now, actually, to me.
Right.
Like
It's
it feels like this is what teaching should be versus like having a teacher in the front of the room. Like my kids right now are taped off from their teacher. So the teacher's literally standing in the front of the room in their own space while the kids are back there. I mean, it couldn't be any more like college setting style of teaching. And then they have the camera then on them. So they have the kids that are online too, but then they forget about the camera sometimes that it's on, right? And they're focusing on the kids that are in front of them and just craziness going on. But this is soon going to be all past us, you guys. All right.
Right.
Fluency. What are some resources and tools that you guys use to teach fluency?
I found these short, well, a lot of the time I'm with short vowels. But I found these like shorter words and I break them up and they gotta like conduct the sentence. So they're doing that. I mean, I still use the Wilson Fluency Kit. But I do have them, we listen to a story on Story Online remember net or I don't know, but to have I teach them like what they're listening for, like what's their rate of, how are they saying, are they sounding like a robot, are they flowing words together, does their voice go up and down? So we sit there and we listen to how they are, we like critique how the reader is, and then I'm like, okay, now this is what a good reader sounds like. This is what you want it to sound like. You don't want us, like, I'm sorry, but some of those readers on Raz Kids are bad. They're bad. They sound like robots and it's just bad. So I'm like, so how's that as a, no. So, but they have to practice the sentence. So sometimes we'll record a cold read. So that what that means is something that they've never seen before. And then we'll practice it and then record it again. But that's over a period of time. It's not just in one sitting. So that's some things I do.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Lynn?
I like to read with them. I would read a sentence. I'll use all the expression and the phrasing and that I want them to use, and they start to imitate you.
Yeah.
So in a familiar read, you can read a sentence and they read a sentence, and they get more comfortable, and you can do silly reads too, like "don't like a mouse," or just something to keep them involved with repeating whatever it is they're reading, because repetition is what it takes.
It is. There's lots of repetition, right? And so, yeah, I love being able to even just use those passages that they have for the Fluency Passages inside of Rise Kids, because that they're already there. You already know how many words are inside of each of those, and I have them read through it. We fix those words that were hard for them. They read through it the second time. They feel like, yay, I mastered it. And then I do the third read is my turn. And that's where I'm like modeling that fluency. And then that fourth read, it's so much fun listening to them, because now they start doing some of that modeling that you're talking about. And you can hear the voice go up. And then I can stop like at the end and be like, I heard your voice go up there. That was really good. I really like how you said this line, and really point out to them the things that they did that were well, because I think a lot of times they're hearing from people the things that they're not doing well, and so if they're struggling with reading. So for us to be able to point out the areas they're doing well, it just boosts their confidence. And then to be like, wow, how did it feel when you were able to read 120 words in a minute? I mean, you like blew my socks off. That's incredible. That's awesome. And they'll look at that and they'll be like, it felt good. Like, yeah. And you know what? By the time you're done working with me, you're going to be reading at 120 words per minute on a first read. And they look at me and they now believe it. And I think that's half the problem why they can't increase, is because they don't believe they can. But when they can see that they can, and then you say, I'm going to teach you how to do that on the first read, they're like, awesome, let's do it.
Well, in the reading intervention, you showed us how you would keep score on the repeated reads, and you can't help but be excited when you see your numbers
go up every time, right?
Change.
Yeah. I had one kid yesterday that went from a 25 to 120.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was just in 3 reads. So,
isn't that amazing?
It is. It is so incredible. So incredible. The types of, when you start seeing those kinds of things, like right in front of your eyes, you're like, anything is possible. Like, we have been held back as teachers, I feel like, in the school system. And a lot of people will say, well, teachers don't know how to do that. Well, that's because they've been put in a box. It's called the curriculum box. And then they've been put into the, I feel like I'm going to lose my job if I don't teach it this way box.
That's a real box.
And fear will make teachers scared to try to do what's best for the child when they're in that box.
Mhm.
And then they begin developing resentment, and they develop illnesses and sicknesses. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us. And that's why a lot of us kind of exit the school system. And now we get to really do what our heart has always told us is the right thing to do, which is awesome. I've spent my entire
Joanne?
life learning everything about reading. Yeah.
I would also graph it for my kids. I'd have the numbers go, there'd be a range that's more consistent for them so they can see how far up they went. And if we were rereading the same story, I would put the same little picture and we would draw a line to see it go up. And you can see that on a new read, the first read gets better. Just like
Yes.
you were saying, all their first reads improving all the way up the line.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I guess I like seeing that visual as much as they do.
Yes. And, I now have like added another little tweak to it. So I show them like what their 3 numbers are, right? And then I have stars that I've drawn with my my tablet that I have. So I just have like a little tablet like this. And I actually will take the star from the top one and be like, oh, look, you just had a top second read. Let's move that star right there. Nice job. And they love it. Like anytime that you can give them that kind of feedback, they absolutely love. And then if they don't beat, like they're on the third read, they don't beat, it's not like their best read. I'm like, you know what? It wasn't the best, but it was good. It was really good. So keep at it. You're doing amazing. So yeah, it is really sad. Yes, that teachers we do have wonderful hearts, and it is amazing to be free of those restraints. Thank you so much for sharing that in our Facebook group. Yeah.
And if you compare the excitement we're talking about with our kids to Adele's little guy that's so afraid to read at all, it's a different world for the kid.
Oh my gosh, it is a totally different world. You really open up their eyes to a whole new experience in life, for sure. To go from somebody who feels like they're less than to somebody who can is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and I love that. And that's why I had so many teachers like asking me to share all the tips and strategies that I had because I was getting such great results. I had been tracking using like the normed types of assessments to see like what kinds of results that I could get. I had a lot of teachers asking me, can you create a course on this and share that with me? And you guys both you both went through that reading interventionist course. What were your thoughts as you went through that compared to like other trainings you had been a part of?
Well, you can actually use it. You can use it. You can go back to it. You can implement it.
Yeah, a lot of our trainings that we always had in the past were always like theory-based, research-based. And it's not that these things aren't research-based and they're not theory-based. It's just teachers want the strategies that they can use that fit the research. They don't always need to know the research in order to be able to implement them. It is great that things are research-based and all that great stuff, but just to tell me the research and not what I can do with my students is not going to be helpful for me.
Taking graduate courses in reading, they didn't get down to the nitty-gritty of it like your reading intervention does. So everything that you really need to know is in your course.
Yeah.
And it's so practical, and you can see one of your videos and implement it with the next student.
Yep. Yeah. And I as you guys know, I did go through my master's, and I just felt like I did not learn nearly what I expected to learn going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a disappointment. I still felt like after I got my master's, you guys, that I still didn't know how to teach reading to the point where I could help all kids.
Mm-hmm.
I still was left with that longingness. And it wasn't until I went through the the Reading First grant for 5 years where I went to trainings. I put in like 30 hours every single year. So over 150 hours of trainings that I attended. And then I had to take those trainings back to my school and teach them to other people. It wasn't until I went through that process that I learned all the different things that I could actually put in place that would work for students. And that really, really made a huge difference, which is why we're holding a free training for you guys when I get back from vacation. It is going to be on the 5th of April. And we're going to be teaching you how to close the reading gap a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction. And I'm going to grab the link because I know that our dear, here is the link. All you have to do is come to how to close the reading gap full year. You can even save it right onto your calendar right there. You will have the details of the event saved on your computer in your time zone. And then you can also just put your name and your email inside of that. So I am going to put that link right on inside of there for you guys so that you can join us. It's going to be again April 5th, 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. And if you fill out the form, you will be able to join us for a replay of that. But the replay will only be around for 1 week. So you definitely want to come in and be able to join us for us live, because then you can ask questions. It's always better to join live than it is to watch a replay, because you can't ask questions on a replay, you know? So definitely. Aw.
Joanne,
Yeah.
I can't say enough about how you taught us how to teach reading. The same way you said you left the courses. You know all the options of ways to teach reading, but you had a kid in front of you. There's still information to sift through as to the approach of first, second, third.
Right.
And there's a lot of teachers that they're not sure of phonics in their own right. They're not comfortable with it. There's a lot of parents also. And you will make people comfortable with their skills and what they're going to teach.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, I can't say enough.
And Jenny
You
said,
left out all the fluff and crap and stuff. It got down to it.
right, because as a teacher, I knew that that's what I wanted. And I actually presented one time at in front of some other teachers, and they're like, "But you didn't give me the research behind this. These aren't research-based strategies." I'm like, "They're research-based. I just didn't waste your time with all of that. Like, I wanted to get down and just teach you the nitty-gritty stuff, you know, because at the end of the day, we only have so much time together. And you don't want to hear me sharing about 4 different studies and research studies and how they did this and how they did that and how they came up with the theory and all of that kind of stuff. You just want to know, how do I just teach kids? It's great that they do that they find out and they do the research to do that. I think that's very important. It's needed, so we know what our best practices. We can share that with each other. But at the same time, sometimes we just need to know, okay, what strategies actually work to help kids. And Jenny mentioned that she just finished the reading interventionist course and was able to start implementing the strategies with 8 kids after the first week. Yay, Jenny! That's awesome. And her students have made gains, and she has so many more effective strategies. Aw. I love that. Thank you. I'm so glad you shared that with me. She was an upper elementary classroom teacher, so the strategies for the younger students were invaluable. That's awesome. Yeah, and I've even put these tools and resources together in a way that they can be used with older kids, even though they're beginning skills. A lot of the skills that you will see online, like phonics and stuff, they're very, very kid-based. And being that I came from the inner city and I worked with lots of kids and, in the middle school age range and high school age range as well, I knew that they couldn't stand that. And so I wanted to give you resources you could use with any age of student, which I think is really, really powerful. All right, we've got fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Your best thoughts, practices, tips on how you teach any of those things, ladies.
Fluency. What was the middle one?
Vocabulary and comprehension.
Do you want us to go to vocabulary next?
We absolutely can. Yeah, tell us, what do you got, Lynn? What do you do for vocabulary?
Part of that is working with parents and having them read aloud to their kids so that their listening vocabulary develops. And then when they read the word with us, something can click.
Yeah.
It's not their first exposure to the word.
Mm.
And when you're reading a passage with the kids, sometimes I'll ask them to just go through and highlight any word they're not sure they can say or they couldn't explain what it means. And there's your vocabulary lesson.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to the level that you think is needed and discuss those vocabulary words. And then when they read the passage, they're familiar with it, and it absolutely boosts their comprehension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had one kid that was absolutely struggling with being able to read the books and answer their comprehension questions. I was teaching him the comprehension strategies because his comprehension was so low. I was really, really focusing on the comprehension side and really like put a lot of my instruction into that so that he could answer questions. And then there was just one question stem left that he couldn't get. And it was every time it was the darn vocabulary word. And of course, I taught him the strategy of go back into the text and find the meaning of the word, blah, blah, blah. But every single time he would get it wrong. And I'm like, okay, because he wouldn't look back, right? And so then I started thinking, okay, he's not going to take my advice on this. I need to pre-teach these words to him specifically because he is struggling with vocabulary. It was like that big aha moment. Like now one of the reasons why his comprehension is so low is because he's not understanding the meanings of the words. And he really didn't come up as one of those kids in the beginning. It was more like comprehension. And then as time went on and I was working with him, I'm like, there it is. So they have words listed in front of like Roz Kids books. Mm-hmm. I would just look at them and just say, okay, can you read the word and do you know what it means? So I'd have him read it. If he could read it, great. Do you know what that means? And then he'd read the next one. Do you know what that one means? No. Okay. You know what that one means? Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't know it. Okay, great. And I would put it on my list. And then I would go on in and vocabulary A to Z is tied with the Raz Kids books. So all I would have to do is just select ding, ding, ding. And now I have fun games and activities that I can play with my kids based off of the vocabulary words that they need to work on in order to be able to understand and read this book effectively. I'm like, wow, you guys, there are tools like that make that one-on-one instruction so easy with no lesson planning. Oh my gosh, we should talk about that piece of it. Lesson planning. What did lesson planning look like for you when you were in the school system, and what does lesson planning look like today?
Oh my gosh, you might as well just spend your whole life writing it out and what standard you're teaching.
Yeah, who decided that was like that? This is how we need to teach. You need to know exactly what standard you are teaching for every single lesson that you're going to teach of the day.
And what is your variation on that?
Who the heck came up with that? That is like...
And you got to make sure they're posted.
Oh, yeah, don't forget about posting them. Yes, because you got to, post them outside your door and then erase that and then, write up the next one. Yeah. That's all the time that I could be spending actually working with kids that are struggling on something. But... yes, I don't know who came up with that strategy. It must have been somebody in the government. I'm just going to say, like how in the world do you come up with that? I mean, I do understand that it's important to make sure that we're teaching certain skills to grade levels and stuff. But I mean, the curriculum is already designed to those anyways, but they don't always post it there. So then you have to go through the dang standards and see, well, where is this one, right? And it's like, okay, I no longer have to worry about that. I can just do best practices. Yes, I know a kid at this level should. And you know what? What the heck what do grade level standards have to do with a kid who's struggling with reading? There is no way I can teach that particular skill right now when I don't even have a kid who can sound out cat.
Right.
like being able to read between the lines and inference and do all that kind of stuff, it's about just about not existing at this point. So to be able to put that, that's what my skill is for today. But I've got
Like-
about 10 kids in class that will not be able to get that.
It's like grade level expectation versus developmental,
Yes.
as to where you have to start.
And that's what we teach inside of the reading interventionist. We lost Lynn. But that's such a beautiful point. It's about the developmental level of the child, not the grade level of the child. The child may be assessed at the end of the year by grade level skills, but if we never take a look at their developmental level, we'll never be able to get them to those grade level skills at the end of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Well, I just want to thank all of you guys today for joining us and learning all about some of the ways that some great reading tutors are teaching reading online. It can be done. It's fun. And if you want to learn how to close that reading gap a full year with 8 to 12 hours of instruction, definitely click on the link that I sent before and join us there. Thank you so much, Kathy, for joining us today.
Of course.
Yay! And thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Adele. We appreciate you guys coming on in, and you guys on the other side and Facebook and inside of YouTube. Thank you guys for showing up too. You guys are the reason that we keep showing up. You guys keep showing up and we keep showing up. So keep showing up so that we keep showing up. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful week next week. I'll be away in Vegas and Zion. So look forward to seeing some pictures on my social media